Welcome, everyone. I'm Grace Browning, your host for Live from the Pit. I am so excited to be with you here today for this really special episode on the Institute for Women Conductors. This is an amazing institute funded by the Hart family and many amazing donors from all over Dallas and all over the country. I had the great privilege of being in this program the very first year, just as the harpist in the lab orchestra of the Dallas Opera Orchestra. And it was really one of the most amazing experiences, not only getting to see how one teaches conducting, but most importantly, getting to see how all these amazing women came in from all over the world and launched their careers into becoming really, really serious musicians who have now done amazing things all over the world. Before we kick off this episode today, I wanted to share a special archive with you. This was actually from my last year in Dallas Opera. And here we are performing the intermezzo from the opera Manon Lescaut. And this is conducted by one of the Hart Institute alumna, Karen Hendrickson, who is absolutely wonderful. So while I won't be playing for you live today, you will hear me plucking away, and it's just a beautiful performance by the Dallas Opera Orchestra. So take a listen, and we'll be back here in a minute with the Hart Institute director and the director of artistic administration, David Lomeli, and his amazing wife, the brilliant soprano and one of my best friends, Sara Gartland Lomeli. See you soon. Enjoy. All right, and we are back, and I am so excited to welcome David and Sara Lomeli. Hey, friends!
Hi!
Hello.
Hi! It's so good to see your beautiful faces. How are you?
Well, I was just crying. So I'm going to try and pull it together.
How can you, I know this Puccini, it breaks your heart. And isn't this, you guys are the real opera experts. This is where Manon has now come over to the US. Is that right? And her life is falling apart, basically.
Falling apart.
Yeah.
I think also, I remember a lot the process from that year. You were there in those sessions, and you see Karen, and it gives me the goosebumps of when she started conducting that piece with Carlo and how they worked it. And we were there in the room while that was happening, and see it now, like the result of that. It also gets emotional. Plus, what Sara was telling
I
me,
turned to David and I said, "Oh, I don't want to cry," but I said, "I hope we can get back to the theaters."
Oh, I know.
To experience that music, it's amazing. And I think we as performers can get I know I deal with performance anxiety, and you want to do well, and you want people to enjoy your efforts. But gosh, 6 months ago, if we would have known that this was going to be our reality, I think all of us would have put a different sort of energy into our creative process. And
right.
But I mean, now we have this, which is amazing too. But it's just so incredible what we can do with music and how it can move a person. So
in a minute,
it started, and I started anyway. Don't want to make my makeup run. I don't make this face up very often. So
you look beautiful, and I mean, I feel the same way, and because I feel so nostalgic, because I mean, I love you guys so much, and I really, not only my 2DO family, but I got to know both of you especially so well through this institute. And that's something we were talking about in our discussion with Carlo the other day, was how this is one of the few times where we come out from the pit, you guys come from down the stage, and we're all in one big space together doing things for the first time, and seeing a conductor come to life, and seeing her interpretation just fly. And Sara, of course, this was especially amazing for us. I still remember our performance of The Trees on the Mountains. That's another piece that if I just hear it, I start to cry. And your performance is so amazing, and I'm so glad we got to re-record that virtually, long distance, and we're going to get to share that later. But I also thought it'd be fun to, take this back a minute and sort of go back to, I mean, what some people might not know, though most people probably do, is that David, of course, is an amazing, amazing tenor. And you, David, I mean, you've performed all over the world. I remember going to your house and watching the Berlin Philharmonic archives of you. There he is. That's him. We know him. And so can you tell us, what some of your most, memorable experiences were, leading up to, of course, when you met the beautiful Sara?
Well, I actually met Placido Domingo in 2006 in February. Mm-hmm. I crashed at dinner. It was a post-performance dinner where he conducted Rigoletto with my beautiful friend, Mexican tenor Rolando Villazon in the lead of the Zatuca of Mantua, and a young Russian soprano by the name of Anna Netrebko singing the show.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah. Now she just debuted Turandot, that is one of the biggest, big boy sound, but she was singing Gilda 14 years ago, so I met them, at 11:30 at night in a very wealthy family next to Central Park residency, and it was so new. He was gonna hear, and Maestro Domingo, he was gonna hear a few other artists, but my teacher was there, Cesar Ulloa, and he said, "Please, Maestro, can you just hear one song?" And he's like, "It's like 1 a.m, like." And he's like, just one. He's like, okay. So I sang Que Gele a Menina from La Boheme. He immediately was like, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing? And I was coming from being a pop star in Mexico and, with a boy band that we had. And
I need pictures of this.
we have...
They're out there.
Don't say. And so I immigrated in 2006 to the United States to be a resident artist in the Young Artist Program in Los Angeles Opera. And later that year, in September, I made my debut in a small role in Don Carlo with an incredible cast. And a month later, I went to Paralia, that is kind of like the World Cup that every year is done. The top artists of the world, they compete. And I had the incredible luck and fortune to be named first prize winner in both divisions of opera and zarzuela. And my life changed. You know, that went into overdrive. I had incredible 8 years of traveling the world and having a dream come true of a career. I sang with the Berlin Philharmonic. I had incredible music experience, like singing Werther in San Francisco Opera with Emmanuel Villon, that eventually was the connection to join the Dallas Opera later. When I decided to move to administration, I actually sang with Ian Derer in Paid to Sing when he was Giannis Kikis, is a wonderful baritone, and I was Rinuccio in the tenor in Milan too. We had a lot of fun. You know, I had incredible memories. There's a poster behind Sara of the Grammy Awards when I sang with Placido in his induction to the Hall of Fame of the Grammys. So it's pretty fantastic, the life that we had, and now also, you know, having the beautiful fortune of being here in Dallas. But I met Sarita in 2009. Mm-hmm. I was in San Francisco Opera. I was a member of their resident artists after 2 years in LA and 6 months stint in singing like 50 performances of Bohème in Basel, Switzerland. I went to be an Adler Fellow, that is the resident program, for 2 years. And they gave me the chance to sing a lead performance, like a couple of lead performances in Traviata of the main stage. So my family flew in, a lot of my friends and sponsors that I had at the time. And one of we had a mutual sponsor at the time, Mr. Bob Corey, and he was very happy that I was singing. And he said, hey, I'm going to bring 2 artists that I'm also sponsoring this summer to your dress room when you finish singing. So just to say hi and everything. So I came in after the performance. My parents were there, my makeup artist was there, my mom was super emotional. It was a big debut, you know, like it's a big deal. And so everybody was there, very emotional. And my mom says, you know, you have a big line to meet you. And I don't know if you're familiar, but in San Francisco Opera, the lead tenor dress room is right up in the next to the door of the backstage door of the War Memorial. So I always think that it's not always about the tenor. We made it about the tenor, but there was a lot of people around there. So we opened the door, and the very first person that enters is Sara Gartland, and she, you know, she got really emotional. She was
clearly it doesn't take much.
My mother was sad, and she grabbed my mother, and you know, my mom is an incredible mother, but she's also a Mexican mother. So until that point, my mom was always watching all my girlfriends a little bit you know, you're not enough for my Mexican boy. And but she grabbed Sara, and Sara started really getting emotional, crying. And I thought, I don't know why this gorgeous woman is thinking I'm Justin Bieber or something. And my mom's I like her, you know. So we went to dinner, and that's how my parents and I said, well, you know, I think I'm gonna call her. And then she sent me a Facebook message. I Facebook back. We met on I crashed another party. So there's a theme, you know, when I was
party crasher.
I just crashed the parties. And that's how it started.
Yeah, I mean, we've been together 10 years, married 8. We have a 4.5-year-old miracle boy. A lot of those two kids back in 2009 would have had no idea all the things they were about to experience.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I love it though. You just like joined the family like right away. Like it's meant to be.
It was such just a spur of the moment gut thing to grab his mother. I congratulated David and hugged him and then I turned around to exit and his mother was there and I just grabbed her. I don't really behave like that so much anymore, but I was so in that moment. It was so pure. And so then I wrote to him on Facebook apologizing for that because it was.
You crashed his family dressing room party and then he crashed another party. So this is why this works.
Yes. One of the many reasons.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'd love to take a quick break and hear a little bit of David's performance here. We're going to see if we can play it from YouTube. Fingers crossed. David, can you set the stage for us real quick of what's happening here before you sing Nessun Dorma?
Yeah, this was an incredible, bizarre experience because of all places, Monterrey, Mexico, where I went to school at Tec de Monterrey. Whoever is watching from Tec de Monterrey, blah, blah, blah. They have an incredible concert series, and they bring the best of the world to perform in Monterrey, Mexico, for the student community and the rest of the city. And so I was just a recent winner of Operalia. I was starting to sing more often. And my first teacher, that now was the director of that program, Hugo Garza Leal, he called me and says like, "Hey, we would like to feature you in one of those concerts. It would be really cool that now an alumni that was here and sang all the the little kind of school shows now is coming and singing a recital as a winner of Operalia." And I said, well, that's great. Like, do we want to do it like piano or orchestra? And he's like, well, we have two options of orchestras that are going to be touring the country in the week that we can fit you in. So there's two. And he said one small opera from orchestra from Castilla, Spain, something like that, and the Simón Bolívar Youth Orchestra with this conductor Gustavo Dramel. And I was like, what? And I was like, is it my choice? He's like, yeah, which one do you want to like? And I was like, that one. So like, Gustavo Dramel. So it was really cool because my very first time working with Gustavo was right there in my hometown in that theater. It was the last time that my grandmother heard me sing live. And so it's a very, very, very special day, a very special night to me. Like, it was my first night as a pro in my own city, the first night as a pro with Gustavo, that then eventually we sang a lot together, and the last time for my grandma. So this is Nessun Dorma with Gustavo Ramel and the youth orchestra, the Simón Bolívar Youth Orchestra.
Wow. Okay, let's pull it up.
Yeah.
Principe
my gosh.
See, this is why a girl shows up crying to the dressing room.
Well, I know. Well, the same goes when I hear you sing, my dear. You are so phenomenal. And I will never forget. And Carlo and I were talking about this too, about how when we first worked with you at the Hart Institute, he was like, working with Sara, it was like it just clicked. I was like, yeah, I know. And this was obviously really special for all of us to get to hear you and work with you, but also because it was when we first met. And since then, we've been so lucky. We've gotten to perform all over the place. And it's great too, because sometimes, when I'm in the pit and you're up there, we really don't have all these chances to meet, but here we are finally in the same room. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so we just talked, and I think I was supposed to perform a recital like 2 weeks after the Hart Institute with another soprano, and she bailed. So we're getting out of the Hart Institute, and I'm like, hey, Sara, do you want to do a recital with me in a week and a half? And you're just like, yeah, okay, yeah. And I loved that. And then it was beautiful. And then you just came up with so much amazing repertoire. And soon we realized, like, oh my gosh, we can play anything. Like we were doing Strauss Lieder, all the French stuff, tons of arias. We did Musetta's Waltz at Quando Mon Ver. And then, of course, Song to the Moon. And this was so special, too, because this is like one of your title roles now. You are Queen Rusalka.
That's awesome, Queen Rusalka.
It's true.
She is. It's a role that I love. I've been lucky that I've been able to perform her now 3 times. My debut was in Arizona Opera, and then I reprised the role for the Des Moines Metro Opera. In fact, they're airing it July 5th.
Commercial.
Well, I'm just saying it, but it was filmed for Iowa Public Television, and it's only been able to be enjoyed in Iowa. But now, as part of their digital summer, they're going to be able to present it to everyone. It's a beautiful production. And then I covered Sandra Radvanovsky with the Canadian Opera Company this last year, so in November of 2019, and was blessed with the opportunity to go on for one performance. And it's just that role. She lives very close to me. I love it. But the role of Susanna, I haven't been able to perform her yet, but I've done a lot of different scenes from that opera. Yeah. And she's another character, I guess, because of the way her music is written and how she's fleshed out. She just lives very close to me. I studied the first aria actually years ago, and then there's a duet that immediately follows Ain't It a Pretty Night, and I had done that actually in Des Moines when I was a young artist there. And then it wasn't until the Hart Institute that they said, hey, would you want to do the second aria, which is a much more difficult aria. Okay. And I'd always wanted to sing it, and I said, yeah, absolutely. And now she's become one of my calling cards. I truly, that aria, I think, is amazing. So, and I want to say too, you know, Grace, you were saying about how in a performance, in a production, the orchestra's in the pit and we're on stage. But you know what's so fantastic about what the Dallas Opera and the Hart Institute has done is they've provided a week of orchestra time for all of those conductors. Yeah, where they get to test everything out. And we're all in the room together, open hearts, fully making music, supporting each other. There's no other company that provides access to an orchestra like that for an emerging conductress. I just think and like you said, like we were saying about Karen and all of the conductors, I mean, Elizabeth Askren, who conducted our Trees on the Mountains, those, you get to see them on day one, and then you see them in that performance, and it's just stunning what they do. Yeah, so.
It's amazing. I know. I will never forget that. And again, this brought us all together and, of course, launched the careers of like tons of amazing women. So, okay, so we're going to take a listen to Susanna now. Can you set the scene for us sort of story-wise, like what's happening now?
Sure. So she's alone. If it's set, she's on her homestead, really just singing a song to comfort herself. She's been shunned from the public. She's an outsider. Her brother is an alcoholic. There's a boy, a young man who is interested in her and is her best friend, but is also really quite awkward and is an outcast. She's parentless, and so she's just comforting herself with this song. Actually, some really horrible things happened to her right after this aria, unfortunately. But it is a beautiful moment of just her, the orchestra, where she gets to pour all of her heart out into these words that she talks about. Giving a baby a name, a lover, where is he? I don't know that she's had any of those experiences, but certainly because she comes from the backwoods and the life that she's had and how her family has been completely outcast, she understands what that longing and yearning is inside of her. And she just says it in this context, even though she doesn't have a child. She's probably never had a lover.
It's a longing area for the good times.
That's right. So this is Trees on the Mountains from Susanna by Carlisle Floyd, who is
amazing. Love him so much. And again, a huge thanks to Doug Ashbaugh for putting our two parts together. This is the first time I'm hearing it. Yay!
Yay!
Okay, here we go.
The trees on the mountains are cold and bare. The summer just vanished and left them there. Like a voice of lover, just like my own, who made
Yes! Oh, brava, brava, brava.
Brava to you.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait till we can do it again in person.
Me too.
Be a little easier probably. Oh man. Well, I just realized we are probably going to go way over in this episode because we have so many amazing things to talk about. So it's a good problem to have. But after this, we're going to hop into a pre-recorded interview with David and Carlo Montanaro. Carlo is the former music director of the Warsaw Opera House. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is the master teacher of the Hart Institute. We've all gotten an amazing chance to work with him. And so, David, can you just tell us, in a few sentences, sort of, obviously, so the Hart Institute, this amazing, up to 2-week program with 10 women from all over the world. Can you tell us just what the basic program sort of schedule looks like? And then we'll get into all the details.
Yes. It's 2 weeks program, full holistic, like all angles tackle. They get everybody gets the same amount of rehearsal with piano, because we rehearse a little bit with piano, and also with orchestra. We put also a group of soloists that are, to kind of train them a lot in the art of getting together with a singer and learning about breathing, learn about ensemble, learn about repertoire and their needs. And then a lot of business coaching, how to get a manager. We bring, the last year we bought like 14 different agencies to talk to our conductors and see them in action. We bring a lot of business consultants for them in different matters about fundraising, personal finances, image, networking, how to be better in academia if that's where you want to go, how to be better into a music director career. And then also, at the end of the day, when they leave, that's when we really, really take care of them, because we want to place them in the workplace. So it's a magical mystery tour, what we do.
Amazing. It's magical. And by the way, that video that we got to watch at the beginning, we're going to get to see another archive of another fabulous interview we did with Stephanie Rhodes Russell, another star alumna from this program. One of the best gifts that you give them is this beautiful HD quality recording of them conducting in the Windsor Opera House with a major orchestra. It's so amazing what you guys have launched. So, so here we go. I'm so excited to share this edited interview with Carlo Montanaro, David, and myself. So please enjoy. This is great. I am just so excited to have you both here, David and Carlo. Such happy memories from working with you both at Dallas Opera, especially for the Hart Institute women conductors. I mean, there is nothing like going behind the scenes to, first of all, just understanding how we basically make music as an ensemble, like how this process works from the standpoint of a conductor. And more than that, I mean, it was one of the most interactive parts, because often, we're in the pit and we're doing our own thing, and you guys are maybe up there and you're doing your own thing. But in this institute, we were all in this together. We have all these amazing women who have so many bright ideas. I mean, let's see where to start. David, I would love to know if you can tell us a little bit about, how this began. Obviously, there has been an imbalance in the conductor world of mostly men forever. And, the Dallas Opera saw this imbalance and you guys decided to do something about it. So how did this all come to be?
Well, in 2014, I joined the company in July 14, and pretty much like 1 to 2 months into the job, the general director at that time was Keith Cerny, and he had an idea of creating an institute. He saw his mother struggling to have a career in classical music, and at the time also we started gathering, like data. It was our perception, but we were starting to get data. We went and did a little study, and that year, in that season, 14-15, there was 100 podium opportunities in the level 1 opera houses in the United States, and there were only 4 that they were given to women. So that was the imbalance at that time. Yeah. So that was the statistic that kind of like grip everybody the moment that we started reaching out to certain donors, to the Mellon Foundation, to grants galore, and the Hart family, of course, and the Mellon Foundation. They went in with us, and we started. And the first week, it was just one week of residency, like lessons. We wanted to make kind of like a mini young artist program residency that is similar for singers. We wanted to have it not only about conducting, it was about the business. So it was a holistic approach. Yeah. And we received, the very first year, we received about 101 applications from like 20 countries, because we wanted also to make it very diverse, very international, because we thought this is not just an issue of Texas or the United States, it was global, Yeah. Now it has been 5 years, and we have discovered about 500 conductors from 40 countries and almost every state of the United States. And wow. It was a big branding experience too, besides, of course, the science of conducting, and that's why we had incredible conducting faculty, such as my dear friend Carlo Montanaro.
I know. So, Carlo, when did you join the TDO family? When was your first opera with us?
I think I did before I did the second season of the Hart Institute, and then I did La Traviata.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That was, we will never forget that.
Thank you.
Seeing you, because obviously we loved having you on the podium anyway, but then seeing you then as a coach and as a mentor with all of your passion, all of your humor, and all of your directness was...
Yeah. Well, for me, it was amazing also because I developed a lot too as a human being.
Yes.
And I am full career conductor worldwide, but I taught a lot also. But this journey with this amazing young talent, and I grow up too, and it was beautiful for me also to experiment different ideas in teaching. This year I'm gonna do this, maybe I'm gonna push a little bit there, a little bit less here. It's understand people is great, and David knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. But I think the orchestra enjoyed a lot, and all the donors. I mean, this is really an amazing, a unique program. I was so happy to be part, and coming back was awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing experience too, because again, we learn so much, and it's one thing. Of course, we've all gone through life. We all have our own, musician mentors and teachers who teach us how to play. But the idea of teaching someone to conduct seems so much more enigmatic in a way. What were some of the core things that you really, like if there were 3 main things that you really wanted the Hart graduates to get from this experience and from your advice, what would you say are the biggest takeaways?
I think that the beautiful part of partnering with Carlo is that once he came into the team and we saw him the first year, and the clarity of teaching and the passion that he has for teaching. So once we knew that he kind of had the conducting instruction part taken care of, it was very easy for us to concentrate in the business PR experience that we wanted. So we wanted them to have, that we could make a resource for the business of well-trained conductors, of scouting, because it's not cheap to scout conductors. We we also tried them. You know, we experienced them with our orchestra. We had film. So when everybody was putting us as a reference, we have a very, very good picture of who they are as music directors, our guest conductors, as assistant conductors, because we saw them collaborate with donors. We saw them engaged on networking. We made it hard sometimes. Like there are days that on purpose we overload the day or we go very fast, and we see who stumble, and there's another born.
Like sometimes
they come in, and then they come
they
in.
understand, so they push it down.
We wanted also, as Carlo mentioned, you know, I wanted them to experience business decisions, donor relationships, PR, networking, and fast environment. That's what eventually, if you're conducting, that's what you're gonna feel. So we created that microcosmos very beautifully, I have to say.
Carlo, what about you? And again, what were
what I can add is that the beauty also of this thing, that there is no winner or loser, you know. That's the good thing, is not winner loser, because sometimes you only have a competition, only one has the final concert, or you know, the best of the class or the two best, they have the concert. Here is everybody on the same level. Everybody had the exact time of rehearsal, and to the second, and I mean to the second. Everybody, you know, has the same opportunity to talk to all the people. So it's basically a one-to-one session with all these people. We share ideas, but really in a friendly way, colleague to colleague. It's not, I don't like to have the relation master-teacher. I mean, we are musicians. I'm talking to you like I want you to talk to me. I don't want yes, yes. I don't get it, or what? Or what are you talking about? You know? Well, yes, because this way I learn, they learn.
Yeah.
You have one chance.
Yep.
You're there 20 minutes. Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
So, Carlo, I'm curious. So how, tell me about how your conductor mentors worked with you, and how your approach with working with young conductors is.
It's better not.
Different.
No, I'm telling you. No, I started really from zero. I mean, Maestro Zubin Mehta, he discovered me, okay? I mean, he sent me to Vienna to study out of the blue. I didn't ask. So I was a lot of experience in my back as a musician. I played 10 years in the orchestra, Maggio Musicale. I don't know if you go online, you can see my background. But conducting, no. I had the luck to have in front of my eyes for 10 years, Georges Pretre, Mazel, Muti, Abbado, Mehta, you know, all the top of the last century, I have to say, because it's true. I mean, you know, but he built me, and his way of build was like stone by stone, you know, no discussion. He was his way, and I love that, because it was an amazing teacher. I mean, it was tough, was crazy, was no discussion, was nothing. I can tell you just a little joke if you want, and then I leave.
Yes.
I was in the class for the Scottish Mendelssohn. I went on the podium with no score, and this guy said like, auswendig, that means by heart. And I said, yes. Okay. He turned, he opened the, you know, the board behind the wall, the blackboard. He gave me the white thing, how to call, to write on these things.
The chalk.
The chalk. Said, okay, write it down. And I said, what are you talking about? You said by heart, write the symphony. Swear to God. Come on, I mean, I can conduct, but I cannot write the symphony by heart. Okay. No problem. So now you go home, you have 1 week. Next lesson, you write 10 bars, 20 bars, 15 bars, Mendelssohn, Scottish, right? Mendelssohn, okay? Score like this. Or if not, 3 months, no lesson. I went home 1 week in my little room of this Studentenheim in Vienna.
Oh my God.
Try to memorize, and I was, I think, 20 bars, 30 bars, I don't remember, with little mistake, but I was there, you know. The day come, we had a student, so he was looking at me and jumping on me. You. At the end of the lesson, he said, okay, guys, bye. And I said, wait a minute, what bye? What about me? He said, what? What? You told me this week, memory. No, that was a joke. That's exactly my face, David. So, but that what taught me that before I say by heart, I think, okay? I had an amazing time. It was very tough, unbelievable.
So, and then how do you respond when you have students, let's say, who, and I remember a few instances, let's say if someone sort of disagrees with you, a student, you know.
David can answer this.
The real work, and it kind of sounds like a cliche, but it really starts after they leave. Exactly. If you don't know the depth of the piece, then it's just for show, and we smell it. With Carlo and I, like, we smell it, and the orchestra also smell it. So it's really funny because they face that. So when they disagree, we also have a lot of negotiation with them after. We have a lot of feedback. So it's important. It's a safe environment. It's part of the teaching. You know, at the end of the day, we're there to correct clarity, to give you insights into the business aspect. But at the end of the day, we also want to find what makes you special, right?
Yeah.
So that's.
But basically, I want you to talk with your words, but I'm here to teach you how to speak clear. Like my English is bad, you're English speaking, so you said no, not two. But I don't want you to use my word, because otherwise it's just a copy of me. You use your word, but if I don't understand, nobody can understand. That's why the orchestra is like, if Pam is not Pam, it's because of this.
Right.
And you start like this, they were like, what? You know? Technique is not everything, but if I cannot play the harp and you tell me how is Le Muse Le Poète, no, what's the name? Is the music? If you tell me how this piece is, unbelievable. You tell me all the music, and then you put me in front of the harp and say play. I know the piece, fantastic, but how can I do it?
I would love to see that. I think it's so amazing that Dallas is a city now that is pioneering the way for female conductors, not only in Dallas Opera, but also in the symphony. You know, you had Karina Kanellakis, Ruth Reinhardt as the last two assistant conductors, and seeing all of the women who have gone off from your program into the world, and many of whom have come back also to work with Dallas Opera. I love seeing this energy coming out of Dallas, but I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on how these young women can take this into the world that is still very much a field wrought with sexism? Do you think that this is the beginning of a wave of change, and you know, how can we take that the next step?
I think that you know, like it's definitely it's a social change. You know, besides a music and business change, it's a social change. One of the brave things that the industry has to understand, and it goes to now with the social movement that is happening in the past weeks, is that yes, of course, there is that thing that people say like, well, but maybe they're not that ready, or maybe they don't have as much experience, maybe their languages are not as developed, maybe the pattern is not as clear. And my argument always that I say is like, there is a myriad of mediocre professional conductors and singers, that of everybody that just got the chance because of the status quo and the economics that were in place at that moment. But today that the economics are changing, that diversity is part of the artistic decision. But in order to have a kind of a planet or a music industry that feels that we're all in it and it speaks to all, we have to be represented in leadership and the stage by every single kind of human being in the planet. So I remember the first time I went and sang Bohème to the very last one, it was a very different journey, right? Mm-hmm. So the same happens when these conductors get more experience. So give people the chance. That's really what I would like to see.
Very well put, David.
That's why the opportunity that David said is very important, but you have to be really prepared for these things and think what you want to do. So it's very important that you come with a good positive, open attitude and willing to learn, you know. Mm-hmm. You have to trust the orchestra. You have to give the orchestra space. When I was playing, I hated the conductor that wanted to play till the last second. you know. Or you come to an Italian orchestra like Maggio Musicale Fiorentino with the attitude that you say, okay, guys, now I teach you how we play Traviata. And we are like, right, all right. And I don't want names, even big names, but it happened, okay?
I'm so inspired by your passion for teaching, and I'm really excited to hear about your opera webinar that you launched.
Oh, I thank you that you give me the opportunity. I mean,
seriously, this is so great, and I'm not kidding. I want to sign up for this. I really do.
Okay. You can join
I'm like,
whenever you want.
let me get out my. I mean, what else
you
are
know,
we going to do
it's
in
a
quarantine?
project that was in my heart and my mind many years, and even after the Hart Institute started developing, because I had a lot of feedback. Oh, can we talk to you? Can we work again with you? Or can we find you? Blah blah blah, and so on.
Yeah.
And so, because my big dream is to build a real academy, you know, for opera, but opera because I grew up in the opera, and my father, my mother, everybody, my grandfather. So, but there is a need also to keep the Italian tradition, you know, the way we talk, the way we sing, the way we approach the music. It's part of our culture. So keep it going. I decide to, in this moment that everything is blocked and this kind of lessons online developing a lot, technology is developing a lot, so why not? So I started operawebinar.com if anybody want to go and see. We start with 3 operas, Traviata, La Bohème, La Traviata, La Bohème, and Lucia di Lammermoor, and 3 lessons per week. I mean, and we have like 22, 23 students, active students already. Yeah, lessons of Traviata almost full, Bohème is filling up. It's great. I mean, I'm cannot wait. And a lot of women too, and it's
I learned a lot from you, really.
Oh, you're very nice, guys. Thank you for this opportunity, and stay safe.
Okay, thanks, Carlo. Have a great night.
Okay. You too.
Bye.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye.
Yay, and there we have it. That was such a great talk with you guys, David. Love that.
Thank you. We have fun with Carlito.
Yeah, Carlito, Cerrita. I love these names. What's my nickname?
Graciatella. That's how we call you.
In Italiano.
In Italiano.
Sì.
Graciatella. Okay, good. I'm gonna use that on all my future documents. So thanks for everyone for still being here. There's just so much great stuff, and we are so excited to introduce our final guest, the amazing Stephanie Rhodes Russell. She was in the first year of the Hart Institute, and I remember her so well. I just knew as soon as we were doing this feature, I was like, I have to call Stephanie. It's been amazing to follow her career. She has been all over the place, and she's actually currently right down the road from you guys in Fort Worth Symphony as a conducting fellow, just doing amazing things. And so we had a great chat this morning that we pre-recorded for this. And so first we're going to get to actually hear a performance of her conducting Carmen, the Carmen entr'acte, which, I mean, selfishly, I had to ask for that because there's a nice heart moment. I remembered feeling the love with her. I remembered it so well. And she was so funny this morning. I was like, I really want to share the Carmen. And she was like, you know, Grace, I went back and listened, and it's really slow. I would never take it that slow anymore. I was like, well, that's part of the process. You get to try these things, right?
Oh, it's the same. Like when I was seeing myself 14 years ago singing, I was like, cover the beat. Like, you know, you see the progress, you know, it's a beautiful thing also, going back in time. So
it is beautiful, right? And this is the learning process. And, but yeah, she's so fantastic and such a beautiful person and doing really amazing things. So we're just going to hop into our next segment here. So first we'll get to hear the beautiful Carmen entr'acte, and then we'll get to hear Stephanie's interview. So stay tuned. See you in a bit. Well, hello there.
How are you?
I'm good. It's so good to see you.
How are things?
Good. I'm just, hanging out in Rochester. Where are you right now?
I am in Argyle, Texas. We fondly refer to it as the Texas countryside. It's like just north of Fort Worth, about 30 minutes. So
Texas country, nothing like it.
right, we got barbecue right down the street.
I know. Are you a Texas girl now?
We are officially a Texan girl. I'm working with the Fort Worth Symphony right now.
No, and I've known you for a while now, but after sufficiently stalking your bio this morning, I can see you've been very busy the whole many years since you've been at the Dallas Opera. You did Hart Institute, was it 2015 or?
Yes. It was 2015. It was one of the most incredible opportunities of my life, and I'll just always treasure that experience. So,
can you tell me about what some of your some of the most memorable moments for that first experience at the Hart Institute?
Absolutely. I loved working with Emmanuel, as you mentioned, and the other mentors that were there. And for me, their level of investment and the intensity with which they approached our work is just something that has always stuck with me, something that I always want to bring to the table as a musician, as a conductor, as a teacher, because I feel like one of the reasons I was really able to grow during that time so much was the people around us were all so supportive. And I have to include the orchestra. For me, I had the opportunity to return to Dallas this spring to conduct a concert at the North Park Center. And it felt like coming home because the orchestra was so engaged during that process. And there was one moment in particular, as I was conducting Bizet's entr'acte from Carmen. And I had this feeling all of a sudden that the orchestra was reading my mind. When you're able to join together with an ensemble in a way where you're all on the same page and it doesn't feel, it's the ultimate collaboration. I don't know how to say it any better, but this was one of my earliest experiences conducting. And I want to underline that because I think one of the amazing things that the Hart Institute does is not just create opportunities for women that are already conductors. They recognize we need more women conductors. End of story. It's kind of that chicken or egg experience where everyone wants you to have the experience before they give you the experience.
Right.
And to have a company that was willing to invest in me and help me make that transition at such a critical time in my career was, I'll forever be grateful for that.
That was one of the things that we all remember too about you is that you were able to go sort of, beyond the score and into this sort of magical musical tentacle world where we're all connecting on that other level, which is really, really special. And I think another thing that was so unique about you too is that you had already had so much experience in opera on all the levels. I mean, you were an amazing pianist. I see your beautiful piano back there. And then beyond that, I know you've been a prompter. Obviously, you've assisted a lot of different conductors. So I'm wondering, so when was it that you decided, or at least were inspired, to go from pianist to conductor?
It's interesting because I was just having a conversation with a colleague yesterday where I said, I should have known much sooner that I wanted to conduct. I remember standing up in front of an orchestra in the 9th grade, subbing in for my teacher. I was a violinist, and she had to go to the office for whatever reason. And I just remember thinking like, yes, we can make music. And I music directed our Newsies musical in the 9th grade as well. Like, there were all these things that I'm like, Stephanie, why didn't you put the pieces together sooner? But honestly, first of all, I didn't know there was the opportunity to work in opera as a pianist. And you didn't really see women conductors professionally. And it just didn't cross my mind that was an opportunity, as terrible as that might sound.
Well, that's the truth, and that's the climate we're in. So So when was that sort of spark?
So I had the opportunity to participate in the Houston Grand Opera Studio as a pianist and coach. And on our very first production that I was on, Elixir of Love, I was doing backstage conducting, which can look like a number of things for an opera production. In this case, I was standing on a crate so the whole chorus could see me, and I was clapping. And, you know, I had some great mentors that were helping me figure out all the inner workings of an opera. And that time, I'll never forget being part of that and thinking, I think this is what I want. There's no direct path to becoming a conductor. It's such an interesting process. And for me, really mastering the musicianship, the art form, working with singers extensively, chorus mastering, I felt like I was just building all of these skill sets that really prepare you to be a conductor. It's not just about standing up and waving your arms. You know, there's so, especially in opera, there's just so much, so many layers. And that's why I love opera so much. The languages alone, I mean.
Well, and so I learned you are a Russian specialist. You won a Fulbright to go to Russia and study there. And then you came back and you transliterated Iolanta for us at the Dallas Opera. So that is super amazing. Where did your love of language come from, and why Russian specifically?
I always loved language, and I remember studying it. You know, I had French in school, and I had exposure to Spanish a lot. I have Spanish speakers in my family. But my father is a doctor, and I remember at about age 10, him coming home at one point with some cassette tapes that were Russian language cassette tapes. He had a Russian patient. And he was just trying to learn a few things. And I remember sitting down with those cassette tapes and like going through all the numbers and just being totally fascinated by it. Because even at an early age, I just had that fascination with culture, with language. And once I was in opera and grad school, I had another teacher and mentor, underlining the importance of mentors here, Martin Katz at the University of Michigan, who asked me to work as a vocal coach and pianist for a production of Eugene Onegin and Tchaikovsky's masterful opera, just in case anyone doesn't know. And he said, the thing is, if you're going to work on this, you have to be prepared to coach the language. That really started this relationship with Russian music, with the Russian language, and I really dove first into pronunciation because as a coach, that's the most critical aspect. But it's so important because they characterize the music. And I really don't think you can fully understand the music if you don't understand the character of the language. And then the Fulbright opportunity was really life-changing because the ability to focus on the language, living in Moscow, and simultaneously I had the opportunity to work at the Bolshoi Theater with their Young Artist program, and coaching in Russian every day. You learn it when you have to speak it. So
yeah, when you're totally immersed. Exactly. First of all, amazing that you mentioned Martin Katz and University of Michigan. I don't know if you know this, but I too am a UM grad.
Go Blue! I finished my graduate degree in 2009.
I finished my undergrad degree in 2009.
We were there at the same time.
So I kind of remember I was upset because I didn't get to play Eugene Onegin. But you know what I did play that year, or maybe the year after, which was my first opera ever? La Boheme.
Okay. I remember that cast. That was with Janai Brugger Orman.
Yes. Talk about another superstar. And you remember the really awful harpist, because that was me then. Yeah, that was me. And because again, like I loved ensemble stuff. I was like, I'm a symphony harpist and I've done all these symphonies, but I had never done opera and I had no idea how hard it was. And poor Martin Katz, like he was so sweet, but they learned my name almost immediately because I was so lost the whole time. So fun fact. Anyway, here we
all have to learn somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. Since your graduation from obviously from University of Michigan, then you've gone through all these programs, the Hart Institute. You're now really one of the star alums. I mean, you've performed and conducted all of, San Francisco, Washington National Opera, Houston, Dallas. and now you're so tell us, what is the conducting fellowship program in Fort Worth Symphony? Is it one person? Are you like the assistant conductor, or how long does that program go?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 2-year program, and there's actually 2 of us, and we do all the education program conducting. We do a lot of community outreach concerts, and then we cover all of the pops and the classical series. And it's really a fantastic program. They incorporate lab sessions so that we have the opportunity to go through a lot of the symphonic repertoire. As we've talked about, my background is opera. Right. So after the Hart Institute, I really realized that I really wanted to hone my technique and focus on conducting in the symphonic framework as well, because there's so much to learn there. It's interesting how in the classical music industry, like opera is so different from symphonic. And it's, you know, you probably wouldn't realize, other than the singing component and the staging, the obvious things, even, you know, the pace at which you move through repertoire, like when you're in opera, you're on a piece for, you know, months, literally. And then in the symphonic context, you're doing a new program every week. And there's so much to be learned from both sides of the table, from both experiences. And so I've loved having the opportunity to be with Fort Worth Symphony. And it's actually been great because I've been able to do some projects with Dallas Opera as well. So I'm still able to merge my love of both.
That's so amazing. And what I find super inspiring about you too is that now you are giving back. You have founded the Women's Arts Leadership Initiative, which is beautiful. And now you're helping to empower young female artists. Can you tell us more about this program and how you started it?
Absolutely. So actually, after the Hart Institute, one of my major takeaways was how little we learn about business as artists, and what a critical role that actually plays in all of our careers. Almost all artists will freelance at some point, but we spend so much time dedicated to perfecting our craft, and we have to be competitive. Like, it requires that singular focus, but then there's this completely other realm of business skills, leadership skills that we just are never exposed to. And throughout my professional experience, I was noticing a lack of women in general. And that wasn't just in conducting and in administration, even on music staffs. And the more that I looked around and looked into it, studies were also supporting that. And there's been a lot of dialogue around that in the industry recently, which I appreciate, but I believe that true change needs to start earlier. So we founded Women's Artistic Leadership Initiative in the hopes of educating young women in leadership skills and business acumen. And our focus is an undergraduate age range, although we have plans to expand our programs. And we host a summer leadership intensive, where we really dive into all of these skills that are required to run a business. And we also talk a lot about the mentality of treating yourself as a business, that you are your company. As an artist, you need to be able to market yourself. You need to understand the finances behind it, the legal logistics, and setting up a business entity, all of these things that go into it. And one thing that I really love about Women's Ally is that we incorporate all the arts disciplines. So it actually removes some of those silos. So last year, for example, in our summer leadership intensive, we had a harpist, we had pianists, but we also had film animators, and we had graphic design and theater teachers that were studying theater education. And so our goal is really to start a larger conversation within the arts industry and to encourage collaboration among them as they're taking on these steps. So ultimately, we want to create community leaders, be it in the arts, be it in how they're giving back to their community. We want them to feel empowered to take whatever career path they might choose, but have the skills to do it successfully.
Love it. Well, Stephanie, this has been so amazing catching up with you, and we're so glad to have you as, a part of the Hart Institute's history. You kicked us off with a bang, and it's just so great to follow you, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon in the pit or on stage somewhere.
You take care.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Yay. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for that amazing talk. I love her so much. Oh my gosh.
She's amazing.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And you guys have known her for a while too, right, Sarah? You were saying you worked with her way back?
She and I were part of the 2009 Marilla class. She is a collaborative pianist and me as one of the sopranos. So that was when I first met her. So that's, a while ago. Yeah. And maybe you've known her about the same
I met her a little before, because I think that I met her I did a concert in Michigan. I did a recital when I was singing in the big theater, and that's where I met her before.
I love it. Well, that's one of my favorite things about this field we're in, is that it's such a small world, and we get to just keep running into each other over and over and over again. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Well, obviously, we've seen today how the Hart Institute has reached so many people. It's brought so many people together. It's launched the careers of over 50 women around the world. It's just so incredible. So, David, what is the future of the Hart Institute? What are plans for next season? I know we're in this really interesting time right now. Are you thinking of going virtually, or?
Well, definitely we're going to address the digital part of the business that is kind of like boom in this moment because of the pandemic, right? Like we have actually seen before the pandemic started, in order to pair it with different physical gifts that were coming, we were pushing the residency that traditionally has been every November. We're pushing it to now to February. And so and we announced that at the season announcement date on January 26th. So right now, with the new plans of the company to open the season at the beginning of the year, we are still in plans to have a physical residency in Dallas in February. But the digital content aspect is something that we want to address. We want to address more and more the way that a conductor cannot be anymore just an entity of music making, and then everything has to revolve about making that person comfortable enough to perform. Now you have to be a businessman, you have to be a fundraiser, you have to be a social activist, and you have to have a great relationship with your own audience, personal and institutional, via digital media. So we are designing a very, very robust faculty, an incredible year. Emmanuel and Nicole again are going to be with us, and we're trying to also hoping that Carlo can give us more days, because with the switch, conductor is a very famous conductor too, and it comes and goes. So I can't wait to see what we're gonna do. We have already received applications. We're in the process of filtering and studying who is going to be the selected few to make it for next year. So
it's so exciting, and I got to hand it to you and the Dallas Opera for really taking this virtual world by the reins and just embracing everything we can do. And while of course nothing will replace the beautiful in-person music making that we all so very much miss, I am so inspired by what you guys have done, and even by seeing also what Carlo has done. He has this whole online academy. I mean, it just seems like this is really headed in a great direction. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me for this conversation today. I love you guys so much. It's so amazing catching up.
We love you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for staying with us for this extra long episode. There's just too much good stuff to cut it down. So anyway, huge thank you, Dallas Opera, and be well, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye.